I had only been at Meridian Plaza for 11 days, which is just long enough to know where the bathrooms are, but not long enough to feel like you belong anywhere. The building sat on the edge of downtown, 22 floors of tinted glass and polished stone, the kind of place that looked important from the outside and smelled like old coffee, floor cleaner, and printer toner on the inside. I took the job because I needed steady money, nothing dramatic. My mom had been helping me with rent more than I liked admitting, and I was tired of hearing that careful pause in her voice whenever I said I was between things. Security sounded simple. Sit, watch monitors, make rounds, don't fall asleep. My supervisor, Darnell, was a big guy with tired eyes and a habit of tapping his pen against his clipboard. Night shift is quiet, he told me during training. Quiet doesn't mean safe. It just means you hear yourself think too much. I laughed because I thought he was joking. Most nights, I worked with another guard, but that Thursday he called out sick. Darnell looked annoyed, then looked at me. "You good solo?" I wanted to say no. Instead I said, "Yeah, I'm good." By 10 p.m., the lobby was nearly empty, the rain tapping against the glass doors, and I went down to the basement CCTV room with my coffee, my radio, and no idea that somebody upstairs already knew I was alone. The CCTV room was basically a converted storage closet with a desk jammed against one wall and 6 monitors mounted above it. The chair leaned slightly to the left. The kettle had a layer of mineral crust around the spout. Somebody had taped a sticky note beside the door that said, "Smile, you're watching people who are watching you." I remember thinking that was funny at first. There was one receptionist still in the lobby, a woman named Mara who worked late because her husband picked her up after his restaurant shift. She was maybe in her 50s, sharp glasses, soft voice, always wrapped in the same gray cardigan. She called me on, without making it sound fake. "You got snacks down there?" she asked over the desk phone around midnight. "Granola bar and regret," I said. She laughed, and that made the building feel less hollow. The cleaners moved floor by floor above me. Every so often I'd hear cartwheels squeaking through the ceiling pipes, or the muffled bang of a trash bin. Normal building sounds, boring sounds, safe sounds. Around 1:10, the rain got heavier, rattling through the loading dock vents like loose gravel. I was rubbing my eyes, watching camera 14, which covered the back service corridor, when the picture flickered once. Then it went black. I sat up, waiting for it to come back. It didn't. At first, I blamed the storm. Then camera 15 blinked out 5 minutes later, and the quiet in that little room changed shape. I called Teresa, the cleaning supervisor, because that was the sensible thing to do. She answered on the second ring, sounding half asleep and irritated. "Meridian Cleaning." "Hey, it's security. Are your people still by the loading dock?" "No, we cleared that side before one." "Why?" "One of the cameras dropped." She paused. In the background I heard a car blinker clicking. That corridor always acts up. Camera 15 just went too. Another pause. Longer this time. "Call your supervisor," she said. I opened the access log on the computer, expecting to see a janitor badge or maybe maintenance. Instead, the service door had been opened with a badge belonging to a finance manager named Aaron Keller. I knew the name only because Darnell had made me memorize the high-access employees. Aaron Keller was in Dubai that week. Darnell had mentioned it that afternoon, because a package had come for him. I stared at the screen, until the letters stopped looking real. Then another badge opened the stairwell. Different name. Then another opened the maintenance room. People who weren't in the building were suddenly moving through locked doors like ghosts with employee IDs. My mouth went dry. I picked up the phone and called Mara. "Lock the front doors," I said quietly. She didn't answer right away. "Mara?" When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "There's a man here." My fingers tightened around the receiver. "He's wearing a contractor vest," she said, "and he just asked where you are." I turned to the lobby camera. At first, all I saw was Mara behind the desk. standing too still. Then the man stepped into frame like he knew exactly where the camera was. Orange safety vest, baseball cap, work boots wet from the rain. Completely normal, except for the way he smiled. Not big, not wild, just calm. He looked straight into the lens and lifted a folded piece of paper. My shift schedule. I didn't move for a second. My brain kept trying to make it ordinary. Maybe management sent him. Maybe Darnell forgot to tell me. Maybe I was new and stupid and turning a maintenance issue into a horror story. Then he tapped the paper with one finger and mouthed my name. I locked the CCTV room door so fast the deadbolt scraped. My hands were shaking badly enough that I dropped my phone before I could dial 911. When the dispatcher answered, I tried to explain everything in order, but my words came out thin and tangled. "Sir, stay where you are," she said. "Do not open the door." "I'm in the basement," I whispered. "He knows I'm here." Outside the room, the hallway light buzzed. For a few seconds, there was nothing but rain in the vents and my own breathing. Then the handle moved, slowly, once, twice. The knock that followed was soft, almost polite. A man's voice said, "Open up, bro. Management sent me." And somehow, hearing him sound so normal, scared me more than if he had screamed. I backed away from the door until my shoulders hit the monitor desk. The dispatcher kept asking if I was safe, but I couldn't answer. I was watching the black screens, the dead cameras, the empty pieces of the building where he had already been. The knocking got harder. "Come on," he said. "Don't make this weird." That sentence stayed with me, like I was the problem, like locking the door was rude. Then he hit the door once with the side of his fist, and the frame jumped. I remember thinking about my mom, of all things, how annoyed she would be that I hadn't texted her back earlier, how I had wanted to prove I could handle my own life. And there I was, crouched under a desk in a basement, whispering my address to a stranger on the phone. The sirens came 12 minutes later, though it felt like an hour. The man stopped knocking before they reached the lobby. When officers found him, he was hiding in the electrical room with stolen access cards, zip ties, duct tape, and a hand-drawn map of the camera blind spots. His name was Cole, former maintenance contractor, fired months earlier. He had been sleeping in service areas off and on, watching routines, learning people. They said he probably picked me because I was new. I quit the next morning before the sun was fully up. Darnell looked like he wanted to apologize, but neither of us knew what words would make sense. Now, years later, I still notice cameras everywhere. Elevators, gas stations, parking garages. And whenever one screen goes black, even for a second, I feel that basement door behind me again, and I remember how quickly a safe place can become a trap. I used to close the bakery 4 nights a week, and for a while, I liked that shift more than I admitted. By 10:30, the morning rush felt like another life. The glass case was empty except for crumbs and 1 or 2 tired cupcakes nobody wanted. The espresso machine hissed as I wiped it down, and the whole place smelled like sugar, yeast, and lemon cleaner. I was 27 then, living with my older brother Marcus, in the downstairs unit of our aunt's duplex. He worked early at a tire shop, so by the time I got home, he was usually asleep, with the TV still glowing blue across the living room wall. He worried too much, but in a quiet way. He'd leave the porch light on. He'd text, "You good?" if I was 10 minutes late. I teased him for it because I needed to feel independent, even when part of me liked being cared about. My coworker Jenna was the opposite of quiet. She talked through every closing shift, mostly about her nursing classes, her ex-boyfriend, and whatever customer had been weird that day. That night, rain had left the sidewalks slick, and she kept looking toward the windows while we counted the drawer. "Just let me wait with you for a cab," she said. "It's 15 minutes, I told her. "I've walked it 100 times. She gave me that look people give when they know you're being stubborn, but she didn't push. When I stepped outside, the old flower market was waiting at the end of the block, dark and wet and familiar. except one whole row of streetlights was out. The flower market wasn't really a market anymore, not like it had been when I was a kid. Most of the wholesalers had moved farther out, where rent was cheaper, but a few old shops still opened before sunrise, selling roses by the bucket and lilies wrapped in brown paper. After midnight, the lane belonged to wet cardboard, broken stems, and the heavy smell of crushed flowers rotting sweetly in the drains. I pulled my jacket tighter and walked fast without looking like I was rushing. That was one of my habits. My mom had taught me that when I was younger. Walk like you know where you're going, she used to say, even if you don't. Halfway down the lane, I saw him. He was standing beside a closed metal shutter under a faded awning. One shoulder leaned back like he was killing time. Dark hoodie under a contractor-style vest. Baseball cap low. He held a cigarette between two fingers, but there was no glow at the end of it. No smoke. Just his hand raised near his mouth, like he wanted anyone passing by to believe he had a reason to be there. I kept my eyes forward. My keys were already threaded between my fingers, though I hated that trick, because it always made me feel dramatic. I passed him without slowing. A few shops later, I saw another shape near a utility pole ahead of me. Same vest, same cap, same relaxed lean, like he had been standing there all night. My stomach dropped so hard I almost stopped walking. For a second, I tried to argue with myself. Maybe there were two workers. Maybe I hadn't seen him clearly the first time. Maybe I was tired and making a shadow into a person, because the lane was dark and my shoes were soaked, and Jenna had put the idea of danger in my head. Then I crossed the street. He crossed too, not quickly. That was what made it worse. He didn't chase me or call out. He just moved after me with the same slow confidence, leaving enough distance that if I screamed, I'd sound crazy before I sounded afraid. I could hear the soft slap of his shoes through shallow puddles behind me. My phone was in my pocket, and I was trying to decide whether to call Marcus when I heard it. A camera click, clear as a snapped twig. I turned before I could stop myself. He stood about 20 feet back, phone lowered, smiling like we were sharing some small joke. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm just making sure girls get home safe." His voice was calm, practiced, like he had said that sentence before and already knew how it sounded. I called my cousin Danny because Marcus would panic, and I needed my voice to stay steady. "Hey," I said loudly, before Danny even finished hello. "I'm almost by the police booth." The man gave a short laugh behind me. "Police booth is closed after 11, he said. That was when the market stopped feeling familiar, because I realized he knew that lane better than I did. I didn't run home. That was the only smart thought I had, and it came through the fear clean and sharp. If I ran home, he would know my street, my door, maybe which window was mine. So I kept walking toward the corner where an old tea stall sat tucked between a florist and a locked storage garage. The owner, Mr. Betty, had known me since high school. He sold tea, cigarettes, lottery tickets, and those little butter cookies my aunt liked. Sometimes, when I passed late, I could see the blue flicker of a small TV behind the shutter and knew he or his wife slept in the back room. I started banging on the metal shutter with both fists. "Please," I said, and my voice broke so badly I barely recognized it. "Please open up." Behind me, the footsteps stopped. A narrow side door clicked. Mrs. Betty opened it in a housecoat, hair wrapped in a scarf, eyes already alert before she even saw my face. "What happened?" "He's following me," I whispered. She pulled me inside by the wrist and slammed the door. The stall smelled like ginger, milk, damp newspapers, and old wood. I heard her lock 3 separate bolts. Then she shouted upward in Punjabi, loud enough to shake dust from the ceiling. 2 men from the apartments above came down within a minute, one holding a phone, the other barefoot with a baseball bat. Through the little security monitor above the counter, I saw the lane outside. The man was gone, but one of the upstairs neighbors said, "Wait, Beatty has a camera facing the bakery." The police came 20 minutes later, 2 officers with wet shoulders and tired faces. By then, I had stopped shaking and started feeling embarrassed, which made no sense. But fear does strange things when people are suddenly looking at you under fluorescent lights. Mrs. Betty kept one hand on my back the whole time, like she could feel me drifting out of my own body. Mr. Betty pulled up the footage on an old monitor behind the counter. At first, it showed me leaving the bakery, hood up, bag on my shoulder. Then, across the street, near the bus stop, the man stepped out from behind a parked van. He had been there before I reached the market. The officers watched silently as he followed me from the bakery block, sometimes hanging back, sometimes crossing ahead through alleys I didn't even know connected. On the screen, he looked ordinary. That was the part that made me sick. Just another man in work clothes, moving through a neighborhood that had always felt like mine. They never found him. Not that night. Not after checking the nearby shelters. Not after taking stills from the video. My manager changed closing so nobody left alone. Marcus picked me up for weeks, sitting in his dusty Honda with coffee he'd never admit he bought for me. I hated needing that ride. I also cried the first night he wasn't able to come. I don't walk through the flower market after dark anymore. In daylight, it still smells like roses and wet cardboard, and people still laugh over buckets of carnations like nothing bad could ever happen there. But I know better now. Sometimes safety isn't a place. Sometimes it's a locked door opening at the right moment, and strangers upstairs deciding your fear is worth believing. I was driving from Pune to Indore after my cousin's engagement, and I remember being proud of myself for leaving late. That sounds stupid now, but at the time it felt practical. My family had spent the whole evening arguing over sweets, photos, missing bangles, and who had offended which aunt by not eating enough. By 10, the apartment was still loud, with relatives dragging chairs across the floor, and kids sleeping sideways on mattresses. My mother kept saying, "Leave in the morning. What is the hurry?" My father, who never liked wasting words, just stood near the balcony and checked the weather on his phone. "Road is clear now," he said. "Morning traffic will be bad." That was all the permission I needed. I was 32, old enough to hate being treated like a child, but still young enough to confuse confidence with judgment. My younger sister packed me leftover poha and kept joking that I'd call her crying after 1 hour. I told her I had coffee, downloaded music, and a full tank. Outside, the air smelled like wet dust and diesel. My white hatchback was parked under a neem tree, spotted with rainwater and flower petals from the function decorations. My mother touched the hood like she was blessing it. "Call from every toll," she said. "I will," I lied gently. At 11:07 p.m., I pulled away from the building, waving at them in the rearview mirror, until the lane turned dark and their faces disappeared behind me. For the first couple of hours, the drive felt almost peaceful. Pune thinned out behind me, and the highway opened into long black stretches broken by dabbas, sleeping trucks, and the occasional bus blasting past with blue lights glowing inside. I kept the AC low because the windshield fogged whenever I turned it up, and every few minutes I rubbed a circle clear with the back of my hand. I liked night driving more than I should have. There was something private about it, like the world had gone quiet and handed me the road for a while. My playlist moved from old Bollywood songs to soft American rock, then to silence when I got tired of voices. Around 1:45, I stopped at a fuel station, bought watery coffee in a paper cup, and texted my sister a picture of it. She replied, "Looks poisonous." I sent back, "Keeps me alive." The man at the pump told me the next stretch was quiet but fine. "Just don't stop unless it's a toll or petrol," he said, almost casually. I remember nodding like I knew that already. By 2:30, the road had emptied so completely that my headlights felt small. The rain had slowed to a mist, and the highway reflected back in broken silver lines. Then, ahead of me, I saw orange cones cutting across one lane and a blinking hazard light near a white Bolero parked sideways. A man in an orange safety jacket stepped out and waved a flashlight for me to slow down. I eased my foot off the accelerator and rolled toward him, already annoyed at the delay more than worried. That's how normal it looked at first. Cones, hazard light, official-looking vest. The man had a trimmed beard, tired eyes, and the bored expression of someone doing work nobody thanked him for. I lowered my window only a few inches. "Accident ahead," he said in Hindi. "Take service road. 10 kilometers only. You'll join back after the bridge." "Where is the accident?" "Truck overturned." I leaned forward, trying to see past the Bolero. The highway ahead was dark, but not blocked the way I expected. No flashing police lights. No ambulance. No line of waiting cars. No people standing around with phones, which on Indian roads is usually the first sign something happened. He bent closer to my window, too close, his flashlight beam sliding across my dashboard and then my passenger seat. "You alone?" he asked. The question landed wrong. Before I answered, his eyes moved past me into the back seat, where my sister's blanket and a box of sweets were lying. My hand went to the lock button. "No," I said. "My uncle is behind me in another car." For half a second, his face changed. Not much. Just a tightening around the mouth, like I had given the wrong answer to a question he hadn't meant to show me. "Call him," he said. "He's right behind," I said, though my throat had gone dry. That was when another man stepped out from behind the Bolero and walked slowly toward my rear tire. I locked the doors so hard the click sounded like a gunshot inside the car. The first man's voice changed immediately. "Madam, why are you panicking? Take the road." The second man bent near my back wheel, pretending to look at something. I couldn't see his hands. I couldn't see the shoulder clearly. My whole body had narrowed into the space between the brake, the gear, and the mirrors. I put the car in reverse. The man at my window slapped the glass once. "Stop. Stop the car." I didn't. I reversed hard, too hard, and the back bumper scraped across one of the cones with a plastic crack that made me flinch. The second man jumped away, shouting something I couldn't understand. My tires spun for a second on the wet road before catching. Then I turned the wheel, hit the accelerator, and drove back the way I came. For the first minute, I expected headlights behind me. There were none. My hands shook so badly I could barely keep the car straight. I called the highway emergency number, and when the operator answered, I started talking too fast. "Fake diversion," I said. "Men on the road. White Bolero. I'm alone. I'm driving toward the last toll." "Keep moving," he said. "Do not stop." Then, in my rearview mirror, far back in the dark, I saw a motorcycle slip onto the highway with its headlight off. It stayed there, small and black, following just far enough that I could almost convince myself it wasn't real. Those 15 minutes stretched longer than any hour I have ever lived through. I kept the operator on speaker, my phone sliding around the passenger seat every time I hit a patch of broken road. The motorcycle stayed behind me, appearing whenever another vehicle's headlights washed over it, then vanishing again into darkness like a shadow. I did not slow down until I saw the toll plaza. Real lights, real booths, trucks lined up, men in uniforms drinking tea near a barricade. I pulled in crooked and stopped so suddenly the car behind me honked. Then I just sat there with both hands locked on the steering wheel, while the toll worker tapped my window and asked what happened. By sunrise, I was at a police outpost that smelled like damp files, fennel, and overboiled tea. An officer took my statement while another kept telling me to sip water. They found the setup later that morning. The Bolero was gone, but the cones were still there, along with stolen plates, ropes, and 2 cheap phones with no SIM cards. "They target tired drivers," the officer said quietly. "Solo people. Service road has no cameras." I stayed in a hotel that day with the curtains closed, listening to elevators ding in the hallway, and jumping every time someone walked past my door. 2 days later, I took a train back. Within a month, I sold the car. People ask why I didn't just get over it. I wish fear worked that cleanly. But some roads stay inside you. Even now, when I'm a passenger at night, I still check every mirror, every parked vehicle, every orange cone, because I know how easily something ordinary can be arranged to look safe. My parents left on a Friday afternoon for a wedding in Pennsylvania, and I remember acting like I was 16 again, even though I was 26, and had my own apartment across town. They had asked me to stay at their house for the weekend, because my dad hated leaving it empty, and because my mom still believed burglars could smell vacation plans through the walls. I said yes, mostly because I missed the place. It was the house I grew up in, a split level in a quiet New Jersey neighborhood where everybody knew each other's cars before they knew each other's names. The front porch light buzzed faintly when it got humid. The kitchen always smelled a little like lemon cleaner and old coffee. My dad kept the garage so organized it made visitors nervous, and my mom left sticky notes on everything, as if the toaster might forget its purpose. Before they left, she walked me through the house, like I had never lived there. "Lock the sliding door after dark," she said. "I know. And don't leave dishes in the sink. I know that too." My dad stood by the door jingling his keys, pretending not to enjoy her worrying. He was calmer than my mom, but in a practical, mechanical way. If something broke, he fixed it. If something scared him, he checked the locks twice and said nothing. "You'll be fine," he told me. Garage remotes in my car, spare keys where it always is, and Walt's next door if anything weird happens. Mr. Walt was our next door neighbor, retired, widowed, and built like an old refrigerator. He watered his lawn at exactly 7 every morning, and still called me kid, even though I paid taxes and had lower back pain. After my parents left, the house settled into that heavy silence only a childhood home can have, when nobody else is inside it. I ordered lo mein from Golden Bowl, changed into sweatpants, and watched old crime documentaries on the couch, like an idiot who believed danger stayed on the screen. By midnight, the takeout containers were on the coffee table, the dishwasher hummed in the kitchen, and rain tapped softly against the front windows. Then my phone buzzed. Porch camera. Motion detected. At first, I barely looked at the alert. The porch camera picked up everything. Moths, delivery drivers, Mr. Walt's cat when she cut through the bushes, even branches moving when the wind hit the maple tree just right. I unlocked my phone expecting to see nothing. Instead, I saw a brown paper delivery bag sitting under the porch light. It was folded at the top, the way restaurants staple takeout bags shut, but there was no receipt attached, no car headlights in the street, no bike leaned against the curb, no person walking away, just the bag, sitting in the yellow pool of light by our welcome mat. I stared at it for a few seconds, waiting for the video to catch up to what my brain wanted it to be. A mistake. Some driver dropping food at the wrong house. Somebody rushing off camera. Then I noticed the writing. My first name was printed across the front in thick black marker. Tom. I sat up so fast, the couch cushion slid behind me. My real food had arrived 3 hours earlier. I had eaten most of it already. The leftovers were still open on the coffee table. Cold noodles stuck together in the carton. My first thought was stupidly ordinary. Maybe Golden Bowl forgot something. Maybe they sent an extra order. Maybe my mom, somehow, had arranged food for me, because she still thought I couldn't be trusted to feed myself. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Your food is outside. The house suddenly felt too quiet. The dishwasher had stopped. The rain had slowed. I could hear the soft electrical hum of the television, muted now, faces moving silently across the screen. I didn't move toward the door. I called Golden Bowl. A tired woman answered after 4 rings. "Golden Bowl, hold please." "Wait, please don't hang up," I said, and heard my own voice crack. "This is Tom from Maple Ridge Drive. Did you guys send another delivery to my house?" There was a pause, some clicking. Then she said, "No, just one order, 9:18 p.m., driver completed." "You're sure?" "Yes, honey. Kitchen closed at 11. When I looked back at the porch camera, the bag had shifted. Not much, maybe 6 inches closer to the door. I leaned toward the screen, cold spreading through my stomach. Then something long and thin appeared from the darkness below the camera, nudging the bag forward. For a second, I couldn't understand what I was seeing. The camera showed the porch from above, so the bottom edge of the frame cut off everything close to the wall. Whoever was there knew that. They were crouched underneath it, out of view, using what looked like a broom handle or a branch to push the bag inch by inch toward the door. My mouth went dry. I turned off the lamp beside the couch, and then the kitchen light, moving slowly at first, then faster, like darkness could hide me from someone already watching the house. The living room fell into a gray kind of black, lit only by the TV and the porch feed glowing in my hand. The bag bumped softly against the threshold. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. It's getting cold. I almost dropped it. I called 911 with one hand while backing away from the front hall. The dispatcher answered calmly, which somehow made me feel more terrified. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone outside my house, I whispered. They left a bag at my door, but they're hiding under the camera. They texted me. Are you inside the home? Yes. Are all doors locked? I think so. I mean, yes. I checked earlier. Stay away from the front door. Do you have a room you can secure? My parents' bedroom. It was the only room upstairs with a solid lock because my dad had replaced the hollow door years ago after my brother kicked it open during a dumb fight when we were teenagers. I moved through the hallway with my socks sliding on the hardwood, trying not to breathe too loudly. Every dark window looked like a face. Every reflection looked like a shadow standing where it shouldn't be. I'm going upstairs, I whispered. Keep the line open. I shut myself in my parents' room and locked the door. The room smelled like my mom's lotion and my dad's cedar closet blocks. Their bed was made perfectly. The wedding clothes they had rejected still draped over a chair. That little normal mess nearly broke me. Then I heard a sound from downstairs that didn't belong to the front porch. A low mechanical rumble. At first, my brain refused it. Then it came again. The garage door was lifting. I stopped breathing. The garage was on the side of the house, under my parents' bedroom. I knew that sound better than I knew most people's voices. The grinding start, the shutter, the metal panels rolling upward. But the opener was supposed to be inside my dad's locked car, parked at the mechanic's shop while they were out of town. The spare remote was supposed to be with it. Someone's opening the garage, I whispered. The dispatcher's voice sharpened. Police are on the way. Stay where you are if the door is locked. But staying still felt impossible. I pictured the mudroom door at the bottom of the stairs, the one that led from the garage into the house. I couldn't remember if I had locked it. I had checked the front door, the slider, the back door. Had I checked that one? The garage door stopped halfway with a heavy clank. Then I heard footsteps on concrete. I ran to the bedroom window and shoved it open so hard the frame stuck. The night air hit me cold and wet. Across the lawn, Mr. Walt's house was dark, except for the blue flicker of a TV. "Mr. Walt!" I screamed. My voice tore out of me, ugly and desperate. "Help! Someone's in the garage!" For one awful second, nothing happened. Then his porch floodlights snapped on so bright, they washed the yard white. His front door opened, and he came out in sweatpants and an undershirt holding a flashlight like a club. "Who's there?" he shouted. "Police are coming! I'm looking right at you!" He wasn't. Not really. The garage was on the other side of the house, but his voice carried through the wet neighborhood, rough and loud and furious. Below me, the garage door rattled again. I heard someone stumble, then the slap of shoes on pavement. A shape crossed the driveway, low and fast, but I only saw pieces of them through the maple branches. Dark hoodie, pale hands, head down. By the time the police cruisers turned onto our street, they were gone. I stayed in my parents' room until an officer called up to me by name and told me it was safe to come down. On the porch, the brown paper bag sat exactly where it had been pushed. folded neatly against the door. An officer opened it with gloved hands and went quiet. Inside the bag was a phone. It was propped against a plastic container full of cold rice, angled upward so the camera faced the height of a person opening the door. The screen was still on. The call had ended by then, but not long before. One officer said the phone was cheap, prepaid, probably bought with cash. Another took pictures of the porch, the bag, the writing, the scrape marks where it had been pushed across the wood. I stood in the hallway wrapped in one of my dad's old sweatshirts, shaking so badly my teeth clicked. Mr. Walt stayed on the porch with the police, arms crossed, pretending he wasn't scared too. My parents drove back before sunrise. My mom hugged me so hard I could feel her heartbeat through her coat. My dad didn't say much. He walked straight to the garage, stared at the half-raised door, then turned away with his jaw clenched. The garage remote was what made everything worse. 2 days earlier, my dad had left his car at Miller's Auto for brake work. The police called the shop when it opened. The spare remote was missing from the visor. Nobody there admitted seeing it. The owner apologized too quickly. A younger mechanic claimed he had moved the car once and never touched anything inside. Maybe that was true. Maybe someone else slipped in. Maybe the person on my porch had watched my parents leave. Or maybe they had only needed one careless opportunity. We never got a clean answer. My parents changed every lock, replaced the garage system, added cameras, motion lights, and a metal bar on the mudroom door. For weeks, my mom checked windows in the middle of conversations. My dad stopped pretending fear was something you could fix with tools. I didn't stay there alone again for almost a year. When I finally did, it was only for an afternoon, while my parents went to a doctor's appointment. I sat in the kitchen with every blind open, watching the street like it owed me an explanation. Nothing happened. A mail truck passed. A kid rode by on a scooter. Mr. Walt watered his lawn at 7, exactly like always. That was the hardest part to accept. The neighborhood went back to normal. I didn't. Home still smelled like lemon cleaner and coffee. The porch light still buzzed in the humidity. But sometimes, even now, when my phone vibrates after dark, I feel that old, cold feeling open inside me, and for 1 second I am back in my parents' bedroom, whispering to a stranger on the phone, listening to the garage door rise beneath my feet. I used to work the night desk at a private diagnostic clinic on the edge of town, the kind of place people only noticed when something went wrong after normal business hours. We were not a big hospital. We had one MRI room, one CT room, a small lab upstairs, and a reception area that smelled permanently like sanitizer, printer ink, and burnt tea from the guard's flask. Most nights were boring in a way I had learned to appreciate. I answered calls from anxious relatives, printed blood reports, took payments, and repeated, "The doctor will review it in the morning." So many times it started sounding like part of my name. I was 27 then, still living with my mother and younger brother, saving money, because I told myself I would move out once things felt stable. My mother hated my shift. Every night before I left, she would stand near the front door in her nightgown and say, "Call me when you reach." "I always do," I'd say. "You say that, then you forget." "I forget once." "Once is enough," she worried loudly. My brother worried quietly, usually by texting me memes at 2 a.m., just to check if I was awake. I pretended it annoyed me, but honestly, on those long silent nights, it helped. At the clinic, there were usually 3 of us after midnight. Me at reception, Priya upstairs in the lab, and Ramesh, the security guard, outside near the gate. Priya was careful, serious, always tying her hair twice before handling samples. Ramesh was older, kind, a little lazy, and addicted to sweet tea from the stall across the street. That night started like any other. A light rain had made the parking lot shine black under the streetlights. The phone barely rang. The clock above reception clicked toward 1 a.m. Then the front door opened, and a man stepped inside holding a folded paper in his hand. He looked ordinary enough, that I did not feel afraid right away. That is the part I hate remembering. He wore a dark hoodie under a rain jacket, jeans, and clean sneakers. His hair was wet at the front, like he had walked from the parking lot without an umbrella. He kept one hand in his pocket and the other around the folded paper. "Hi," he said, slightly out of breath. "I need a blood report. It's urgent." I sat up straighter and pulled the keyboard closer. "Patient name?" He gave it immediately. "Full name, age, test type, CBC and liver panel." He even knew the sample had been collected that afternoon. "My wife's admitted at St. Agnes," he said. "Doctor's asking for it now. They told me you people are open." There was stress in his voice, but not the messy kind I was used to from relatives in emergencies. It felt rehearsed, though I only understood that later. At the time, I just felt sorry for him. "Registered phone number?" I asked. He gave one. It did not match. "Maybe her old number," he said quickly, then gave another. That one was wrong too. I looked up from the screen. "Sir, I can't release medical reports without verification." His face changed for half a second. Not anger exactly, more like the mask slipped and something hard showed underneath. Then he smiled. "Please, sister, I'm not asking for money. It's my wife. I understand, but I need the registered number or ID proof matching the patient." He stared at me a little too long. The waiting area lights buzzed above us. Outside, I could see Ramesh's empty plastic chair near the entrance. Finally, the man folded the paper again and nodded. "Okay, I'll call her brother. I'll wait outside." But he did not go outside. He sat in the waiting area, directly across from the reception glass, and rested both hands on his knees. 10 minutes later, the phone on my desk rang. It was Priya upstairs, and when I answered, she whispered, "Did you send someone up?" My first thought was that I had misheard her. "What?" I said. "Did you send someone upstairs?" Priya whispered again. Her voice was so low I had to press the receiver against my ear. "Someone just tried the lab door." I looked through the glass. The man from reception was still sitting in the waiting area. He was not on his phone. He was not pacing. He was sitting perfectly still, looking right at me. "No," I said, and my mouth went dry. "He's here." There was silence on Priya's end. Then, barely audible, "Then who's outside the lab?" My skin went cold from my scalp down to my hands. I turned toward the small monitor under my desk, the one connected to the clinic cameras. The upstairs hallway camera showed a figure near the lab entrance. Dark hoodie, rain jacket, mask over his face. Same build, same clothes, almost identical. For a second, my brain tried to make it innocent. A staff member, a patient's relative, someone from maintenance. But nobody should have been upstairs without passing me. "Lock yourself in the sample room," I told Priya. I am. Please call Ramesh." I grabbed my phone and called the guard. From somewhere near the entrance, a ringtone started playing. Not outside, inside. I turned slowly and saw Ramesh's phone lying on the empty chair beside the front door, face up, vibrating against the plastic seat. The man in the waiting area stood. He moved casually, like he had been waiting for me to notice. I hit the lock button under the counter, and the glass door between reception and the waiting area clicked shut. It was not bulletproof or anything dramatic, just a security door meant to stop angry patients from storming the desk. He walked up to it, smiled, and tapped one finger against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. "Upstairs," Priya whispered into the landline. "He's trying the handle again." I called 911 with hands that barely worked. The dispatcher asked for the address, and I gave it too fast, then had to repeat it while staring at the man through the glass. He was no longer smiling. He leaned close enough for his breath to fog a small circle on the panel. "Open it," he said. I shook my head. His voice stayed soft. "Don't make this stupid." That scared me more than if he had yelled. I could hear Priya crying quietly through the desk phone, still off the hook beside me. Somewhere upstairs, a dull thud carried through the ceiling. Then another. "Police are on the way," the dispatcher said. "Stay behind the locked door." I called the clinic owner from my cell while still keeping 911 on speaker. Dr. Shah never answered at night, unless someone called 3 times. I called 6. When he finally picked up, groggy and irritated, I screamed, "There are men inside the clinic." "What? Who is this?" "It's me. They're upstairs. They have Ramesh's phone. Wake up. Please wake up." The man outside reception turned his head slightly, listening. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out his own phone. He typed something. Above me, the banging stopped. That was worse. I pictured Priya in the sample room, sitting on the little stool near the refrigerator full of blood tubes, covering her mouth so she would not make noise. I felt a horrible guilt settle in my chest. I had almost believed the man. I had almost felt bad for him. If I had printed the report or buzzed him through, maybe he would already be upstairs with her. I ducked under the desk and found the panic button with my thumb. It was old and stiff, and had failed during a drill once. I pressed it. Nothing happened. The man tapped the glass again, harder this time, and whispered, "Last chance." The alarm finally triggered on the 5th or 6th press. It did not start like I expected. There was a half-second click, then a rising electronic scream that filled the clinic so completely, I clapped one hand over my ear. The man at the glass flinched. For the first time, he looked angry. Not annoyed, not impatient, angry. He kicked the bottom of the door once, hard enough to shake the frame, then ran toward the entrance. Upstairs, I heard fast footsteps in the stairwell. The police arrived within minutes, though it felt like I had been under that desk for an hour. Red and blue lights washed across the waiting room windows. Officers caught one man behind the clinic near the generator shed. The other was found hiding in the stairwell between the 1st and 2nd floor, crouched behind a stack of old file boxes. Ramesh was found outside near the tea stall, shaken and confused. He said one of them had asked for directions, and when he stepped away from the gate, the other must have slipped in. His phone had been taken from the chair. Maybe that was true. Maybe he had just been careless. I never knew what to do with my anger at him, so it sat inside me with everything else. The police found fake hospital papers in their pockets. They also found a folded list with names and timings of female night staff from 3 nearby clinics. Mine was on it. Priya's was too. I remember sitting in the back of an ambulance afterward, wrapped in a thin blanket that smelled like plastic, while Priya held my hand so tightly our fingers hurt. Neither of us said much. There was nothing useful to say. I resigned that week. Dr. Shah apologized, installed better locks, hired 2 guards per shift, and stopped keeping young staff alone at night. People told me that was a good thing. Like fear becomes worthwhile if it improves a policy. Maybe it does. Maybe that is the only way to live with it. But even now, years later, whenever I walk past a clinic glowing white in the middle of the night, I think about that glass door, that soft tapping, and the moment I realized danger does not always rush in loudly. Sometimes it sits politely in a waiting room, knows your name, and smiles while someone else moves upstairs. I was still holding the horn down when the fake tow truck pulled away with its headlights off. For almost 10 minutes, I had believed help had found me. Then I realized the man walking around my car was not there to fix anything. I used to be the kind of person who enjoyed driving at night. That probably sounds strange, but there was something about an empty highway that made my brain settle down. During the day, I worked in a small insurance office in western Pennsylvania, answering emails, handling claims, and listening to people explain car accidents in the same exhausted voice. By the time I got off work, I usually wanted quiet more than anything. My parents lived about 3 hours away near Harrisburg, and I made the drive once or twice a month. My mom always packed leftovers into plastic containers, even though I told her I had groceries at home. My dad checked my tires in the driveway like I was still 17. He was not affectionate in a big, obvious way, but he showed love through tire pressure gauges, full gas tanks, and telling me, "Don't wait until empty to fill up." That weekend, I had stayed later than planned because my mom's birthday dinner ran long. My sister came with her kids, and the house was loud in that warm, messy family way that makes you tired before you realize you're happy. By the time I left, it was already after 11. "You can stay," my mom said, standing in the doorway with her arms folded. "I have work Monday." "It's Saturday night?" "I know, but if I stay, I'll sleep late, and then I'll still have to drive." My dad walked me to my car and tapped the hood twice. "Text when you get home." "I will. And no back roads if you get sleepy." "I'm fine, Dad." For the first hour, I was. I had coffee in the cup holder, an old playlist on low, and the heater blowing just enough to keep the windshield clear. The highway was mostly trucks, and the occasional car passing fast in the left lane. Everything felt normal until the temperature light blinked on. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Then the needle started climbing. I took the next service road because it was the only safe-looking place to pull off. It ran parallel to the highway for a while, separated by a sloping strip of weeds and guardrail. But once I turned onto it, the main road felt strangely far away. Trucks passed in the distance with a low rushing sound, close enough to hear, but too far to see me clearly. It was 1:30 in the morning. I put the car in park, turned the heat all the way up, because I remembered my dad saying that could help an overheating engine, and sat there watching steam curl faintly from under the hood. The air outside was cold and damp, the kind of March night where the pavement looked wet even when it wasn't raining. I called roadside assistance, trying to sound calmer than I felt. The operator was polite and bored, like she had taken 50 calls exactly like mine. "Are you in a safe location?" she asked. "I think so. I'm on the service road near mile marker 218. "Are you alone?" "Yes." There was a tiny pause before she said, "Okay, stay in your vehicle with the doors locked. I'm sending a tow. Can I have your name?" I gave it. She repeated it back, confirmed my phone number, and told me the driver would take about 30 minutes. After we hung up, the silence got heavy. I texted my dad that I had pulled over but was okay. I did not call him because I knew he would hear the fear in my voice and start driving toward me half asleep. 5 minutes later, yellow light flashed in my rearview mirror. A tow truck rolled up behind me and stopped so close its headlights filled my car with white glare. Relief hit me first, fast and embarrassing. I actually laughed once under my breath. The driver got out quickly. He was already wearing gloves. He walked to my window and said, "You called for pickup, Megan?" The sound of my name should have made me feel safer. For 1 second it did. Then I remembered I had only given it to the operator 5 minutes earlier, and the app still said a driver had not been assigned. I kept the window up and cracked the door only enough to speak through the gap. "What company are you with?" He glanced back at his truck like the answer was obvious. County Roadside Towing. The name was close, too close. My membership app said County Line Towing. "Do you have the dispatch number?" I asked. He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. He was maybe late 30s, clean-shaven, average build, the kind of man you would not notice in a gas station. That made it worse somehow. "Look, I'm trying to help you out," he said. "Engine overheated, right? Sit in my truck where it's warm, and I'll load this up. I'm okay in here." His smile faded. "Ma'am, I can't load the vehicle with you sitting inside. I'll get out when the real driver gets here." That was the first time his face changed completely. Not dramatically, just a tightening around his mouth, a small shift in posture, like I had stopped being a person and become a problem. He stepped back and walked around my car with a flashlight. The beam swept across my mirrors, my back seat, my purse on the passenger floor. I locked the doors again even though they were already locked. My hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries to open the roadside app. Actual tow truck, 25 minutes away. My stomach dropped. I called the operator again, whispering, "There's a tow truck here, but it's not mine." Before she answered, he bent down near my rear tire. A sharp hiss cut through the cold air. Then my tire pressure warning came on. For a moment, I just stared at the dashboard. The little orange symbol glowed back at me, calm and meaningless, as if it had not just told me I was trapped. He stood up slowly from the rear tire and wiped something on his glove. Not a knife, I don't think. Maybe a valve tool. Maybe something small enough to hide in his palm. He looked toward my window again, and this time he did not bother pretending. I called 911. My voice came out thin. I'm on a service road near mile marker 218. A man is pretending to be my tow driver. He just damaged my tire. The dispatcher asked if I could drive away. My engine overheated. I don't know. I don't think so. The man walked back to my window and tapped on it with 2 knuckles. Open the door, he said. I shook my head and held the phone down against my leg so he would not see the screen. He leaned closer. I could smell cigarettes through the glass, or maybe diesel from his truck. You don't want to be sitting out here all night. Something in me snapped then. Not bravery exactly, more like panic finally finding a job. I slammed my palm onto the horn and held it there. The sound tore through the service road, ugly and constant. The man jerked back, furious. I kept pressing until my arm hurt. On the highway, a truck slowed, then another. Their brake lights glowed red through the weeds like distant warning signals. The fake driver looked toward the highway, then back at me. His face was flat now, empty of every polite expression he had used before. He walked quickly to his truck, climbed in, and pulled away. He did not turn on his headlights. The police found me still locked inside my car, crying so hard I could barely answer questions. One officer stood near my rear tire and shined his flashlight down. "Valve stem's been cut," he said. Hearing it out loud made my knees go weak, even though I was sitting down. Until then, part of me had been hoping I misunderstood, that maybe the tire warning was bad timing, that maybe he was just rude, that maybe fear had made me stupid. But the tire was ruined, and my engine was still ticking hot under the hood, and the fake tow truck was gone into the dark like it had never been there. The real tow driver arrived 20 minutes later, shaken when the officers told him what happened. He was a heavy-set man in a reflective jacket who kept saying, "That wasn't us." I'm sorry, that wasn't us. I believed him, but I still would not sit in his truck until one of the officers checked his ID and dispatch confirmed his plate. Later, at the Toll Plaza Lodge, I sat on the edge of a thin motel bed while the heater clicked and rattled under the window. The room smelled like old carpet and bleach. My dad arrived just after sunrise in yesterday's jeans and a sweatshirt, hair flattened on one side from sleep. He did not lecture me. He just hugged me in the parking lot and held on longer than usual. The police told us fake tow scams had been happening on that stretch, but mine was different. The driver had known my name too quickly. They thought someone might have been listening to dispatch calls or using a scanner. Maybe he was waiting for stranded drivers. Maybe I was just the next voice he heard. I changed roadside providers after that. I stopped driving long highway stretches alone at night. For months, every yellow flashing light made my chest tighten. I used to think fear lived in dark alleys and abandoned places. Now I know it can show up dressed like help, with gloves already on, saying your name like it belongs to him. Winter break made our college feel like a place that had been abandoned in a hurry. Usually the hostel was loud enough to hear from the parking lot, with girls arguing over laundry machines, calling home on speaker, dragging chairs across the floor, and laughing in the hallway long after lights out. But by the second week of December, most of that noise had disappeared. I stayed because my internship started earlier than everyone else's break ended. It was at a small accounting firm 15 minutes from campus. Nothing glamorous, but it mattered to me. My father had called it a foot in the door, and my mother had packed me enough snacks to survive a natural disaster. They lived 4 hours away, and although they did not like the idea of me staying back, the warden assured them one floor would remain open with a few girls. My father asked her twice, "There will be staff on site, right?" "Yes, sir," she said, sounding offended. "Security is 24 hours. The warden, Mrs. Sinha, was strict in the way adults become when they are tired of young people. She wore her keys on a thick ring at her waist, and always smelled like talcum powder and strong tea. I never hated her. She could be sharp, but she had once brought me medicine when I had food poisoning, so I trusted her enough. At first, there were 3 of us on the 4th floor. Me, Ria from economics, and a quiet nursing student named Alina. We shared instant noodles, complained about the cold water, and kept our doors open while studying, just to make the hallway feel alive. By the 3rd night, Ria had gone to her aunt's house, and Alina had shifted to a cousin's place after her mother panicked. I remember watching Alina roll her suitcase toward the elevator and joking, "So you're abandoning me?" She laughed and said, "Lock your door, okay?" That night I did. My room was at the far end of the 4th floor corridor, close to the fire stairs. During the semester, I liked that because it was quieter. During winter break, quiet felt different. The fluorescent light outside my door flickered every few minutes, and the wind pushed against the old window frames with a soft whining sound. I tried to make the room feel normal. I made tea in my electric kettle, wore 2 pairs of socks, and spread my internship papers across the study table. My mother called around 10 and asked if I had eaten. "Yes, Mom. Proper food or chips?" "Proper food. Don't lie. It was noodles." "That is not proper food." My father came on the line after her. "Door locked?" "Yes." "Chain also?" "Yes." "Good. Call me if anything feels off." I rolled my eyes, but after we hung up, I checked the bolt again anyway. Around midnight, the hostel became completely still. No footsteps above me, no water running in the shared bathroom, no muffled phone calls from the next room, just the low buzz of the tube light and the occasional bark of a dog somewhere outside the campus wall. I was almost asleep over my laptop when I heard the knock. 3 soft taps. At first, I thought it came from inside a dream. Then it came again, sharper. I froze, sitting upright on my bed. A man's voice spoke from the hallway, low and flat. "Pest control, madam." For a few seconds, I just stared at the door. Pest control. At 12:45 in the morning? Nobody had informed me. No notice had been pasted downstairs. No message had come in the hostel group. I stepped quietly onto the cold floor and looked through the peephole. 2 men stood outside my door wearing masks. One held a spray can, the other had a clipboard. Then I looked down and saw one of them was wearing bathroom slippers. My first instinct was to step away so fast my heel hit the bed frame. I pressed my hand over my mouth, not because I was going to scream, but because my breathing suddenly sounded too loud. The man knocked again. "Madam, open. We have to check the room." I didn't answer. My phone was on the table, charging beside my laptop. I grabbed it and called Mrs. Sinha. Her number rang once, then went to a switched-off message. I tried again. Same thing. Outside, the second man spoke now. His voice was rougher. "Madam, complaint has come. We are checking all rooms. There's no pest control at night," I said, trying to make my voice sound firm. "Warden Madam knows. We have master keys." That sentence made the room tilt around me. I dragged my study table across the floor and shoved it against the door. The legs screeched against the tile so loudly I knew they heard it. My hands were shaking, but my body kept moving. Chair against the table, suitcase against the chair. Anything heavy, anything between me and them. I called Nisha, a girl I knew on the 3rd floor. She answered sleepily. "What happened? Did pest control come to your floor?" "What? No. There are 2 men outside my room." Her voice changed instantly. "Don't open. I'm calling downstairs." Then I heard it. Keys. Not a knock this time, not voices, just a ring of keys jingling softly outside my door. I watched the handle, unable to move. One key slid into the lock. The knob twitched once. Then slowly, it began to turn. Something wild took over me then. I started screaming names. "Ria, wake up!" "Alina, call security." "Tanya, don't open the bathroom door." There was nobody in my room, nobody on my floor, but I screamed like the room was full of people, like help was just behind me, like I wasn't standing there in my pajamas with bare hands and a phone at 2% battery. The key stopped turning. I put the campus emergency number on speaker and called. It rang long enough for me to feel my throat closing. Then a bored male voice answered. Security. "There are men trying to enter my room," I shouted. "Fourth floor girls' hostel. Room 407. They have keys." "What men?" "I don't know. They said pest control." "They're not pest control. Please send someone now." Outside, footsteps moved away from my door. For 1 second, relief hit me so hard I nearly cried. Then I heard another door down the corridor rattle. They were trying the empty rooms. Nisha called me back while I was still on speaker with security. "I'm at the stair landing," she whispered. "I'm not coming up. I can hear them." "Don't come," I said. "Please don't come." The corridor outside carried every small sound, a key scraping, a door handle shaking, one man muttering something I couldn't understand. The fire stair door creaked open and then shut again. I stood on my bed and tried to see through the narrow window above the courtyard, hoping to spot security lights, movement, anything. My room smelled like spilled tea and fear. My mouth tasted metallic. Then heavy footsteps rushed up from below. A man yelled, "Security! Who's there?" And from somewhere just beyond my door, someone ran. Campus security found them near the fire stairs. One guard held one man against the wall, while the other sat on the floor with his hands zip-tied, breathing hard through his mask. They looked painfully ordinary under the bright corridor lights. Not monsters, not shadows, just two men in cheap jackets, one still wearing those ridiculous bathroom slippers. The police came after that. Then Mrs. Sinha arrived, wrapped in a shawl, saying, "There must be some misunderstanding," before anyone had even asked her a question. But there was no misunderstanding in the bag they carried. Duplicate keys, fake ID cards, a printed list of occupied hostel rooms. Mine was highlighted. Nisha's room was marked too, though she had gone home the previous afternoon and only come back that night to pick up a charger. I called my father at 3:20 a.m. I had never heard him sound like that before. Not loud, not angry, just awake in a way that scared me. "I'm coming," he said. By morning, he was there in the warden's office, unshaven, eyes red from the drive, refusing every soft explanation the college tried to offer. "You left my daughter alone on a floor, and men had keys," he said. "Say that clearly before you call anything a misunderstanding." A formal complaint was filed. Mrs. Sinha was suspended during the inquiry. The college changed locks, added guards, and suddenly found the budget for cameras that students had been requesting for years. I moved out within a week. For a long time afterward, every knock made my stomach turn. Even now, I check hotel doors, apartment locks, office stairwells. I listen for keys. People say a locked door makes you safe. I used to believe that too. Now I know safety is not the lock itself. It is who controls the keys, who answers the phone, and whether anyone believes you before the door starts opening. I moved into Hawthorne Arms on a rainy Friday evening with 2 suitcases, 8 cardboard boxes, and the tired confidence of someone pretending a new address could make her whole life feel new. I was 34, newly single, and working days as a discharge coordinator at a hospital downtown where everything smelled like sanitizer, burnt coffee, and paper gowns. By the time I got home most nights, I wanted silence so badly it felt like hunger. The apartment was small but clean. Beige carpet, narrow kitchen, bathroom with old blue tile, and a living room window facing the parking lot. My cousin Rachel had helped me carry boxes until her back started hurting, then left me with a hug and a warning to lock the deadbolt. The landlord, Mr. Carver, seemed harmless. Soft voice, gray cardigan, keys clipped to his belt. Quiet building, he told me. Mostly nurses, retirees, people who mind their own business. That sounded perfect. Around midnight, I was sitting on the floor eating cold pizza from a paper plate, labeling boxes with a marker, when I heard a soft tick beside the bathroom door. I looked up just as another drop hit the cardboard. At first, I thought I had spilled something. I wiped the floor with an old towel and stared at the ceiling until another drop formed, fat and clear, then fell onto my wrist. The bathroom smelled damp, like old plaster waking up. I moved my boxes away from the wall and put a mixing bowl under the leak because it was the only thing I had unpacked. It was 12:48 a.m. when I texted Mr. Carver. "Sorry it's late. Water is coming through the ceiling near the bathroom." He replied after 2 minutes. "Unit upstairs is vacant. I'll send maintenance in the morning. Put a bucket down if you can." The answer calmed me a little. I set my phone on the counter and tried to make myself useful, pressing towels along the baseboard, listening to the drip become steadier. Then someone knocked. 3 hard taps. I froze. A man's voice came through the door. "Maintenance, open up." For 1 second, relief washed through me so strongly, I almost moved toward him. Then my brain caught up. "Morning." Mr. Carver had said morning. I stepped closer to the peephole. "Who sent you?" "Building maintenance," he said. "Need to check the leak." The hallway light behind him was dim, turning his face into a shadow under a baseball cap. I could see a dark jacket, work boots, one hand held low at his side. Nothing about him looked impossible. That was the worst part. He looked like any tired maintenance guy called out too late. "Can you show me ID?" I asked. He held a card up to the peephole, but he pressed it so close all I saw was a blur of white plastic. "Back it up a little," I said. He didn't. His voice changed. Not angry exactly, but firmer. "Ma'am, if you don't open, the ceiling can fall, and you'll be responsible." That sentence landed wrong. It sounded practiced. Pressure, not concern. I backed away and called Mr. Carver directly. While the call rang in my ear, a phone vibrated outside my door. Not somewhere down the hall, right outside. The man had Mr. Carver's phone. My fingers went numb. I nearly dropped mine before I remembered the emergency contact sheet taped beside the elevator. I had taken a picture of it earlier because Rachel told me to. Across from 2C was a number for Sam and Priya Mehta. I dialed with shaking hands. Sam answered groggy, and I spoke loudly enough for the man outside to hear. "I've called the police. Someone is at my door pretending to be maintenance." The knocking stopped. For 2 seconds there was only the drip behind me and my own breathing. Then I heard footsteps moving away, slow at first, then faster toward the stairwell. Sam opened his door before I did. I kept my chain on until I heard his wife, Priya, say, "Honey, it's us. Stay inside. We're right here." They stood in the hallway in pajamas and winter coats until the officers arrived. Priya kept asking if I was hurt, and I could only shake my head. My legs felt hollow, like they belonged to someone else. The police went upstairs first. The vacant apartment above mine was unlocked. One officer came back down with wet sleeves and a look I didn't like. The sink tap had been left running. A bucket had been tipped beside the bathroom wall so water would spill through the floor. It was not a plumbing emergency. It was bait. Then Mr. Carver arrived, pale and breathless, and when an officer asked who else had keys, he looked at the floor. Mr. Carver admitted a spare key had gone missing during renovation work 2 weeks earlier. He had also left his work phone in his unlocked truck that evening, and thought he had misplaced it. Whoever came to my door had used both. He had opened the empty unit, made the leak, answered my text, then walked downstairs with a reason for me to let him in. Police never found him. The hallway camera near the stairwell had been out for months. The parking lot camera caught only a dark sedan leaving at 1:07 a.m. No plate visible. I stayed with Rachel for a month. I slept on her couch again, listening to her dishwasher hum and feeling embarrassed by how badly I needed the light left on. When my lease ended, I moved into a newer building, with cameras that worked and neighbors who knew my name. People ask if I feel safer now. I do, mostly. But safety is different after something like that. It is no longer a feeling. It is a checklist. I confirm with 2 people before opening the door at night. I call. I wait. I listen. Because now I know danger does not always break in. Sometimes it knocks politely, uses a familiar voice, and waits for you to unlock the door yourself. I started working at the Brookvale 8 because I needed rent money, and because my mom said sitting in my apartment between hospital shifts was making me too quiet. She meant well. She always did. After my dad died, she measured my sadness by how often I answered texts, how long I let dishes sit, how many times I said I was fine. The theater was only part-time, mostly weekends, and it smelled like butter oil, old carpet, and cherry slush syrup. It was not glamorous, but it gave me a routine. I liked the closing shifts at first. There was something peaceful about the building after the last crowd left, once the arcade lights blinked to themselves, and the lobby music sounded too loud for all that empty space. My supervisor, Dana, was 46, practical, divorced, and always wearing reading glasses on a chain. She smoked behind the dumpsters during breaks and called everyone kid, even people older than her. That Saturday was wet and cold, the kind of late October rain that made the mall parking lot shine under the orange lights. Trevor, the other closer, begged off early because his girlfriend's car had died, and Dana let him go with a tired wave. "Just do the final sweep with me after cash," she said. But 10 minutes later, she got pulled into the office with the safe, and I grabbed the trash bags alone, thinking it would take 5 minutes. Screen 2 was empty. Screen 3 was worse. Popcorn everywhere. Then I reached screen 4 and saw the door sitting open. Screen 4 had always been the smallest theater, tucked at the end of the back hallway where the carpet changed from red to a faded maroon no one had bothered replacing. It was the room we used for older movies and weird weekday showings nobody came to. That night, I knew it was closed. There had been a handwritten sign taped to the box office window all shift. Screen 4 unavailable due to projector repair. Still, when you work somewhere long enough, your body follows the checklist, even when your brain says it does not matter. Trash, cup holders, side exits, lost phones, sticky spills. I pushed the door open with my hip and stepped inside. The air felt colder than the hallway. The screen was blank, gray-white in the dark, catching a little light from the aisle strips. No previews, no credits, no sound except the low hum of the ventilation system. At first I thought I was alone. Then my eyes adjusted, and I saw him. He was in the very back row, almost centered, hoodie up, shoulders rounded forward like he had been sitting there for hours. For a second, I thought maybe a customer had wandered in drunk, or confused from another theater. It happens sometimes. People slipped into the wrong screen, fell asleep, missed the end of their movie. "Hey," I called, keeping my voice light. "Sorry, sir, we're closed for the night." He did not move. I took 2 steps down the aisle, then stopped when I realized there was nothing for him to have watched. No movie had played in that room at all. I laughed a little, not because anything was funny, but because my body needed a sound to put between me and the silence. "You might have ended up in the wrong auditorium," I said. "The last shows are over." The man stayed still. His hands were hidden in the front pocket of his hoodie. I could not see his face, only the pale line of his jaw under the shadow of the hood. The smell in the room seemed different now. Sweat under damp cotton, faint but sour. I backed up 1 step and pulled out my radio. "Dana, you there?" Static crackled. Then her voice came through, distracted. "Yeah, kid." "What's up?" "There's someone in screen 4. A pause. "What do you mean someone?" "A guy. Back row. I'm telling him we're closed." Her voice sharpened. "Screen 4's closed. Projectors torn apart. Nobody should be in there." That sentence moved through me slowly, like cold water filling my shoes. I looked toward the side exit near the front, then the staff door tucked behind the curtain on the left wall. Most customers did not even know that door existed. It led to a service hallway with storage closets, breaker panels, and access to the old mall corridor. I lowered the radio. "Okay," I said to the man, trying to sound annoyed instead of scared. "I'll give you 5 minutes, but then we really have to lock up." That was when he finally turned his head. His voice was calm, almost curious. "Do you close alone every Saturday?" I ran before I thought about running. My sneakers slipped on the aisle carpet, and the trash bag twisted around my wrist, spilling cups behind me as I shoved through the auditorium doors. I did not look back. Looking back felt like giving him permission to become real. The hallway seemed longer than it ever had. The lights above me flickered in that cheap fluorescent way I had complained about for months. Halfway to the lobby, I noticed the emergency exit beside screen 4. A strip of silver duct tape had been folded over the latch, so the door would close but not lock from the outside. I stopped just long enough to understand what I was seeing. Then the auditorium door behind me creaked. I sprinted. Dana was coming out of the office with the cash drawer in both hands when I hit the lobby. She took one look at my face and set it down hard. "What happened?" "There's a man in 4, I said, barely getting the words out. "He asked if I close alone. The exit is taped." Dana did not ask me if I was sure. That is one of the reasons I still think about her with gratitude. She grabbed my arm and pulled me into the manager's office, locked the door, then pushed the filing cabinet in front of it with a grunt. Her hands shook when she called mall security, but her voice stayed steady. "This is Brookvale 8. We have an intruder inside the theater. Possible weapon unknown. 2 female staff locked in the office. Outside, somewhere beyond the wall, a door opened softly. Security arrived before the police. 2 guards with flashlights and tired faces that changed the moment Dana showed them the taped exit. They searched screen 4 first. The man was gone. He had left through the service hall, probably the same way he came in, but under the seat where he had been sitting, they found a black drawstring bag. One guard opened it in the hallway, and I saw enough before Dana turned my shoulders away. A small knife, work gloves, 3 women's scarves folded tightly together, one floral, one blue, one pale pink with makeup smudged near the edge. The police took our statements in the lobby, while the soda machines hummed behind us like nothing had happened. Later, an officer told Dana they had been looking into complaints from other theaters in the mall. A man had been slipping into late shows without tickets for weeks, not stealing money, not bothering customers, just watching, learning schedules, waiting for closing rounds. They found footprints in the service hallway dust and a scratched lock on a staff-only entrance that should have been repaired months earlier. I quit 2 weeks later. I tried to stay because I needed the money, because quitting felt like letting him take another piece of my life. But every dark row looked occupied. Every hoodie in the lobby made my stomach clench. Every empty screen felt like a mouth waiting to close. I work mornings now at a clinic near my apartment. I still check exits when I enter a room. I still hate sitting with my back to a door. The theater changed its policy after that. Nobody sweeps alone. Staff leave together. It is a good rule. I just wish it had existed before I learned why we needed it.